let's do this thing. So I already did this one, but we're gonna get to it again. All right, so one by Checkmate. All right. So I like to open up my sides. So I put my pawns on a6 and h6. I like to block off b5 and g5 from the knights when people move them out. So I think when I started playing, I was getting burned by those. So I just like to have that, and it cuts off the bishops too from going to g5 or b5. So that's just how I like to open, and it's a little different. I like to be a little different. I don't like to just play by the book. So sometimes it gets me in trouble, but I usually get out of it and figured out ways to get out of it. So here, he, of course, starts with the trouble because he's going to take over d5 and have two pieces protecting it when I have none. So that's already starting behind, but that usually happens when I open with the outsides. So now I move a piece to protect d5, and I have to move another piece out to protect that. Now he has two pieces protecting e5 and d5. I only have one protecting d5. So, or actually I have two protecting d5 because I have the queen protecting d5. So I can now move a piece into d5. And he takes that with the pawn. I take his pawn. He takes my knight. I take his knight. And I like this position right here because my queen is now free and I can move him around the board however I want. So he now opens up his diagonal for the light squared bishop. And this move right here, I usually should get my light squared bishop out from behind that pawn before I move my pawn out to e6, but I didn't do that this time because I think I was trying to attack with the dark squared bishop on f8. So next time I should probably just move my bishop out first and then move that pawn up. And he sees that I opened up that space, so he takes out his pawn on a3 to stop the movement of my bishop on f8. And as you see, I can't go to b4. I can't go to c5. The only places I can really go with that bishop are d6 and e7. So I go to d6. And here, it's not even that good of a position either because I can't go to e5 or f4 or g3. So this is just movement, and now it allows my king to castle whenever I want to. So he moves his queen out. I don't really know what he was doing here. I think he's just creating space. And if my bishop gets taken, a bishop on d6 gets taken in anyway, now that pawn on c7 is kind of weak. So I can see what he's doing here. So yeah, I castle. I said, okay, I'm not really going to be able to use the right side. And it's going to take a lot of time to try and move that out, and it's going to be a little messy. So let me just castle now. I sometimes like to wait to castle, but in this situation, I was like, let me just castle because his right side is already kind of messed up. So he's now attacking my queen, and I have to move it. So I move my queen over to the left side all the way just to keep attacking that side, and especially that weak pawn on g2. And I didn't really want to move my queen back. I like moving my queen out and giving it space. So that's why I moved that here. So he's just moving the bishop out to create space and probably set up a position for it. So I move my knight out to start setting up a move forward and just moving all my pieces from the back file. And he moves that pawn up, just attacking. I think he knows he's not going to castle on that side. So he's like, all right, let me just start attacking and moving the game forward, which I agree with. So I move this pawn up to e5 because I know I have my knight protecting e5, my bishop protecting e5, and my queen protecting e5. So I know that if my pawn is taken, he only has his knight on f3 protecting e5. So I'll be able to have the board wide open with my queen once I finish with that battle. So he takes it, and I take with the bishop, and he takes with the knight, and now my queen is on e5 with the open board. He's attacking, or she's attacking, the rook on a1. So if I attack that and he doesn't do anything, that would put his king in check, and I'd be able to get his other rook on h1 because he'd have to move his king up to e2. So, of course, he castles to protect his king and protect that rook. So I start setting up and moving things out and freeing up the space for my rooks, and I attack his queen on c2 just to make him do something and make a move. So he moves it back, which is I don't like to move my queen back. I only want to move it back if I have to. So that's, allowing me to set up and not really pressuring me in any way. So I start moving my pieces out and move my rook to d8, and now it's somewhat attacking the bishop on d2, especially if he has to move his queen again and he moves it the wrong way. I can now attack that bishop and there's no protection for it. So he moves that smart to, try and get my queen to move, and now he has those two bishops facing towards my castle, and that's a pretty good position for him. So I move my queen up because I like to attack my queen and get him into a better position. So that's what I do. And now, and then also I was now attacking his bishop on c4, and if he didn't do anything, I would be able to take that. But of course, he moved it back, retreating, which he kind of has to in this position. So I'm attacking. So I move my knight up to have more space and cover more space, and I make a move that isn't smart but won me the game. So after this, so I don't really like covering the back side of my queen, but there's ways for my queen to get out of this situation, so I'm not too worried. So now he attacks my queen and I have to move it. But what I do here is I don't move it. I now put his king in check, but with this knight, and I want to open up that alley on g2. So he can either move his king or take my knight, and that's what he does. He takes my knight. So now I take his pawn, and the alley's open. Got her opened up. So that's what I like to do. I do like to open it up, and I do like to, I guess, play games and have people move their pawns into situations where they can't really castle anymore. Their castle's not strong. So I like to do that, and that's what I did here. So I was down 2, but it's not terrible. But this guy was pretty tough, so I had to do some work, and I knew he was going to take my bishop. So we traded, and the alley's open, and it's not looking too bad for me. It's not good, but it's not looking too bad. So he tries to, attack my rook and try and take pieces out because he's up. So I don't want that to happen. So I put his king in check and, try and move him into the corner. And that's what he does. He goes into the corner. And, of course, I protect my rook and start to, try to maneuver around to try and win, because I don't want this to get to a pawn race. So he's now, trying to protect his king and put my queen in danger. So I just move it a little bit, not trying to get him out of position. And from here, there's just a lot of movement trying to set things up. This move right here by him was pretty good because he knows that I can't take his bishop because his rook is protecting it, and I have to move my rook over. So he's going to take 2 pieces right there. And now my castle is fucked up. My castle is screwed. So right here, we're not in a good position. We're not in a good position, definitely. I was like, damn, man, giving up that knight messed me up. But, I worked through it. And this was also a good move right here by him, by blocking my rook's movement to the left, because that pawn on e3 is protecting his bishop on f4. So this is not a good position for me. But I just try to maneuver around. I'm like, all right, I have that alley, so I'm going to just attack that alley and however I can. So he moves that queen out, and now he's in a pretty good position, because if he gets that bishop down to h6, and then he's able to move that queen down to g7, he could possibly have a checkmate. But that's not going to happen because I'm going to protect and attack. So I move my rook over to g6, and I know we're going to trade right here, so that's not an issue. And that alley is now open. So he's going to move that rook back over to, of course, cover that alley. And what I try and do, I try to just maneuver here like, hey, let me apply some pressure. Maybe he makes a mistake. People make mistakes when you apply pressure. So he did good here. He covered it up, and like I can't really get to his king, and I can't really take his rook. So I move around a little bit. He protects it, and I move back here. And I'm really stuck here. I don't really know what to do, but I figure it out. Because the alley I opened up is gonna win me the game. So he decides to take a pawn, which, okay, yeah, he's up. Like, if we get to a pawn race, that'll be good for him. Like, I don't want to get to a pawn race here, so I have to get aggressive. So I see this move right here. So I move down to D5, and I know that because his king is on the white diagonal, once I move my rook, his king will be in check. So wherever I move my rook, he probably won't be able to get taken. So I see that if I move my rook to D4 and then move my rook, the next move up to D1, and then he has to cover the queen with his rook on G2, that would be checkmate because he can't move his rook down. So that's exactly what happens. He moves his bishop back, and he does not see the move that's coming. So, of course, I put his king in check. He has to move his rook up, and then I just move my rook down to D1, and the game is over. So the reason I could not move my rook over to C4 is because if I move it to C4 and then the rook goes to C1, the queen could take the rook. So I need to move my rook over to D4, and his pawn can't take that rook because, of course, his king is in check. So here he can't do anything else, and it's checkmate. So that alley that I opened up that I kept attacking won me the game. It was a little tough, but yeah, this move right here, seeing that if I move my queen to the D5 and then move my rook over, his king's gonna be in check, and then all I gotta do is move my rook up, and it's checkmate. It was a tough match, and you see he's ranked higher than me, but yeah, I was able to figure it out, and I think the lesson is it's okay to lose a piece to try and open up the game to eventually win it.